I mean, I like kind of brag on Michael Jordan here a little bit, and I think we were a similar ilk with the Jazz. Is I like where guys just tighten their belt up and say, you know what, let's go to work. We just got to get better. Yep. We got to play harder. We got to play smarter. Instead of just, where's the grass greener? I'm going to go there and win a championship. Yep. I think it devalues that. You're not climbing the mountain, you're taking a helicopter to the top.
Totally agree.
So, John Stockton sat there cool as ice and dropped one of the coldest reality checks the league has ever heard. You're not climbing the mountain, you're taking a helicopter to the top. That shot wasn't random. It was aimed straight at LeBron, and Stockton delivered it with the calm confidence of a man who spent 19 seasons fighting in the trenches without ever begging for extra help. This wasn't some loud entertainer chasing views. This was Stockton, the quiet killer who tossed out 15,806 assists and never cried about teammates or situations. So when he called out the so-called greatest for taking shortcuts, it hit way harder than the usual old-school complaints. Stockton's message came from a different world, a world where loyalty wasn't optional, where staying with one squad for decades wasn't wasting your prime. It was a badge of honor. Hit that subscribe button, because this moment might be the crack that shakes LeBron's whole legacy, and the next chapters are only getting crazier.
Starting a free fall. I think the Bronny thing started the free fall. I think people around the league are looking like, yeah, you're LeBron, but you're not 27-year-old LeBron. You're not even 34-year-old LeBron. Like, you're an old man now who's dictating and destroying the Lakers because you want your son to play, and look what's happened.
Now let's talk about that helicopter line. On the surface, it sounds like classic old head talk, but Stockton was aiming deeper, talking about the entire culture difference. When he says climbing the mountain, he's talking about the Utah Jazz grind. Him and Karl Malone battling year after year, watching Michael Jordan break their hearts, then showing up again the next season ready for more smoke. They never said, let's go find an easier path. They kept fighting. And when you line that up next to LeBron's career choices, yeah, the contrast is loud. The moment things got rough in Cleveland, LeBron dipped to Miami to link up with Dwyane Wade and Chris Bosh. When that vibe got old, he bounced back to Cleveland with Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving. When that squad cracked, he shot out to LA with Anthony Davis. Every time the climb got steep, LeBron found himself another helicopter. But here's where it gets wild. Stockton wasn't just talking about jumping teams, he was pointing at something deeper. The difference between building something and buying something. The Jazz built their whole championship window piece by piece, draft by draft, player development, culture, the whole grind. LeBron's squads, they were put together overnight through big signings and blockbuster trades. Now you might say, but LeBron got rings. Sure, but Stockton's real point, how you win matters just as much as the win itself. And the crazy part is more people are starting to ride with that take. But before we get deeper into that, there's something bigger we need to break down. How do we remember legends once they're done? The retirement test. Nobody brings this up when they argue the greatest, but it changes everything. Retirement is the real test of greatness, because once the lights fade, all that's left is what you actually did. And this is where things start looking rough for LeBron. Look at the pattern. It's not pretty. Michael Jordan's legend has only grown since he walked away. We went from Michael might be the GOAT to Michael is definitely the GOAT to nobody is ever touching Michael, and every year he feels more mythical. Jordan's flu game gets more iconic. That push-off on Russell feels like art. Even his losses, like getting swept by the Celtics, somehow make his story stronger. But LeBron, the cracks are showing while he's still on the court. Be honest, when was the last time a LeBron performance had you jumping up, yelling, calling your friends, losing your mind? When was the last moment that felt unforgettable? Even radio hosts are pointing it out. Retirement might not be kind to him, and they could be right. LeBron's whole GOAT argument is built on volume, stats, and longevity. But the second he retires, those numbers freeze. And when they freeze, people start looking closer. Playing 21 seasons sounds wild until you realize it means he spent the last stretch being average just to keep piling up numbers. Being the all-time scoring leader sounds amazing until you remember he needed more games than anyone else to get there. And then we hit the biggest issue, the super team era. The more time passes, the more people are gonna look back and start asking, hold up, how many of those rings did LeBron actually earn? Because Stockton's helicopter line is aging like premium wine. And here's the crazy part. This ties into something way bigger going on in today's basketball world. We're talking about the authenticity problem. Stockton stands for something that's fading out of sports, the real, raw, old-school authenticity. And LeBron, fair or not, is starting to look like the face of everything people hate about the modern athlete culture. Stockton stayed in Utah for 19 straight years. Utah, not exactly a superstar vacation spot. He could have forced a trade to a big market. He could have chased rings in LA or New York, but he didn't. He stayed, built with what he had, and kept grinding. That's authentic. LeBron's career, the total opposite. Every move feels planned out by his media squad at Clutch Sports. The decision wasn't hoops. It was a TV special made to boost his brand. Going back to Cleveland wasn't some emotional homecoming. It looked more like image repair. Even his social media feels polished, filtered, and approved by a committee. And people are catching on. The radio host said Hall of Famers, dudes who usually stay quiet, are finally speaking up and taking shots at LeBron. These legends can smell the difference between something real and something manufactured, and that's why they're speaking up now. They lived through an era where hoops were raw and genuine, and they're watching LeBron turn everything into a polished corporate product. And here's the wild twist. This authenticity problem isn't just hurting LeBron with old-school players. Fans are starting to feel it too. Remember when the radio host said teams aren't even that sad when he leaves? That's because LeBron has never been bigger than any city he played for. He always felt like a visitor, even when he brought trophies. When Jordan left Chicago, the whole city was shattered. When Kobe retired, Los Angeles treated it like a national moment. When LeBron leaves a team, it's more like, appreciate the run, good luck at your next stop. That says everything, and that leads us straight into the most brutal part of Stockton's criticism. This isn't just hoops, it's about character. The Bronny factor. If you really want to understand why LeBron's legacy is slipping, look at what's happening with his son Bronny right now, because this situation shows exactly what Stockton meant. LeBron basically pressured the Lakers into drafting Bronny. Not because Bronny was the top choice, not because he dominated in college, but because LeBron wanted to share the court with him, and LeBron always gets what he wants. That's the helicopter mindset in full display. Instead of letting Bronny build his own path, maybe grinding in the G League, earning minutes, proving his worth, LeBron airlifted him straight into the league, and everyone just nodded because it was LeBron. But here's the part that really damages the situation. It shows LeBron will put his personal goals above the team, no matter what. The Lakers didn't draft Bronny because they thought he'd help them win. They drafted him because they were scared LeBron would walk if they didn't. And fans see straight through it. People around the league are basically saying, yeah, you're LeBron, but you're not 27-year-old LeBron anymore. Now you're an older player forcing a franchise to bend so your son can get minutes, and that's a tough look. It's harsh, but it's also real. What LeBron is doing with Bronny looks exactly like what privileged people do everywhere, using their status to give their kids shortcuts regular families never get. And that connects perfectly to Stockton's helicopter versus mountain line. Stockton's kids didn't get fast-tracked to the league because their dad was John Stockton. They had to climb on their own. That's what the mountain looks like. Meanwhile, the Bronny situation is just the surface. It's part of a bigger pattern that's followed LeBron his whole career. And that brings us to the Clutch Sports empire. Most fans don't realize LeBron isn't just a player anymore. He's the leader of a media machine with influence all over the league. And that machine is Clutch Sports. When the radio host said Stockton does not work for Clutch Sports and will never work for Clutch Sports, they were hinting at something huge. LeBron has spent years building a network of power that reaches way beyond basketball. Clutch Sports controls a whole lineup of NBA players. They've got ties with major media outlets. They sway draft choices, free agent moves, even coaching hires. When LeBron wants something done, he doesn't just lean on his basketball power. He uses his entire business empire to make it happen. That's why authentic guys like John Stockton can talk freely, but a lot of current players and media people can't. They're connected to the clutch machine, and crossing LeBron could put them on the outside real fast. But here's the catch. Building an empire comes with sacrifices, and every time LeBron made a business-driven choice, his basketball authenticity took another hit. The decision wasn't just hoops. It was a brand-building event. Going to the Lakers wasn't just about chasing another title. It was about Hollywood access and life after the league. Fans feel it. They can tell LeBron's choices aren't purely basketball anymore. They're about business, legacy polishing, and setting up the next chapter. Everything feels calculated and cold. That's the opposite of Stockton. Stockton kept it simple. What helps us win? That was it. No brand building, no empire thinking, no Hollywood angle, just hoops in Utah, pure and clean. And the more years that go by, the more people are starting to appreciate that kind of purity. Which leads us straight to the biggest question of all, the long game. So here's the million-dollar question. Was John Stockton actually right? Is LeBron's legacy going to fade in retirement while Jordan and Kobe keep getting bigger and bigger? All the signs are screaming yes, and it's not just basketball. It's the whole culture shift. People today are craving authenticity more than ever. They're tired of polished branding, scripted moments, and personalities that feel corporate instead of human. They want real stories about real people who fought through real struggles, and LeBron's story, for all the success, just doesn't feel genuine anymore. Look at the legends fans love the most. Muhammad Ali gave up the prime of his career for what he believed in. Jackie Robinson fought through insane levels of hate to break barriers. Michael Jordan got beat down by the Pistons, then came back a monster. Those stories hit because they're about battling adversity, not dodging it. LeBron's story, it's about optimization. Every move is perfectly calculated to avoid failure and boost success. Smart business, but it doesn't create legendary storytelling. It doesn't create mythology. And here's the scary part for LeBron. The younger generation doesn't have that emotional bond older fans had with past icons. To them, LeBron is just another superstar with a brand team and perfectly managed moments. They see the polish, not the passion. When he retires, he won't have an army of fans defending his legacy the way MJ and Kobe do. He'll have Clutch Sports releasing statements and rolling out documentary promos. But manufactured love, that stuff never lasts. Authentic love lasts forever, and that's exactly why the radio host said that in 10 years, people might rank LeBron 5th or 6th all time. And honestly, that might be generous, because once the business empire fades and the media noise quiets down, all that's left is the basketball. And when you strip everything away and look at just the game, LeBron's GOAT case starts looking shaky. Stockton climbed the mountain for 19 straight years and never reached the top, but his legacy is rock solid because everyone knows he gave everything he had to the climb. LeBron reached the top multiple times, but his legacy is slipping because deep down people feel like he took the easy route and skipped the grind. That helicopter line wasn't just Stockton taking a shot. It was a reminder of how real legends are judged, not by stacked numbers or super teams, but by the character they show when nobody's watching. LeBron spent 2 decades building an empire, but somewhere along the way, he forgot to build a legacy. He optimized everything for success, but forgot the story. He boosted his brand to the moon, but his authenticity took the hit. And now, as his career winds down, all those shortcuts are starting to catch up to him. The mountain is still standing, waiting for someone who's willing to climb it the hard way. Stockton never reached the top, but he's remembered as a legend. LeBron reached it again and again, but he might end up remembered as the guy who kept taking the shortcut in the end. That's the difference between being great and being remembered as great. And Stockton just reminded everyone which one actually matters. If this breakdown hits you with a new perspective, make sure to subscribe for more deep dives into the stories that shape basketball history.